Hey friends! So great drum sounds are the basis of great dance music, especially for modern electronic genres. Nothing can quite set you back like bad sounding drums. Drums that lack impact or clash with your music are immediately apparent. If you just spend all your time hunting around for the perfect drum samples, I just want you to know that there is a much better way. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use Ableton Live to create drums that tick all the boxes. Drums that are modern sounding, high impact, and are tonally or harmonically related to your music. Even if you're not making EDM or drum and bass, this kind of drum synthesis can also serve as an enhancing layer underneath acoustic drums or samples, so every single person watching this video can greatly benefit from watching the whole thing. So let's start with the kick drum. Okay, so the basis of a lot of these drum sounds is going to be made with operator. And I know that you might look at operator when you drag it into your set, and here's a fresh operator right here. You might look at it and immediately judge it because you think that this is an outdated synth. But at the end of the day, this thing can do exactly the same thing that the most high-end synthesizers, software synthesizers are doing right now. You just have to understand how to use it. I'm going to use mainly sine waves. Sine waves are so powerful for making percussion. So right now, just have a raw sine wave on this first operator. So there are 4 operators inside of operator. Each one of them has their own envelope. And so we're going to use that to our advantage to make the envelope, if you will, of a kick drum. So right now, if I hold a key down, the note sustains. So the first thing I want to do is I want to decrease the sustain all the way down. So you can either click on this guy right here, or you can do it right here, right? So I can decrease the decay, maybe get a more percussive sound. Now, the next thing that you need to understand is that most synths that you reach for, not all of them are created equal, and many of them don't have within them the ability to choose where the phase of the waveform begins. Right now, the phase of this waveform begins right here. You can kind of see that it begins, if you can think of this as a line, it begins at a 0 crossing. This can sometimes be advantageous, but for our purposes, we actually don't want that. What we want to have happen is that whenever this wave fires, we want it to fire at the peak of the wave. Because what this will allow us to do is to have somewhat of a snap or a click sound at the beginning. Take a listen to what happens when I start to phase this up. Right? We can hear a click sound at the beginning, and many kick drums have this sort of click kind of sound to it. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is click over here on the globals page, and we'll reduce the voices to just 1, because we don't need more than 1 kick at the same time, right? All right, so going back to this page, let's go back to the envelope, and now we have this pleasing click, click, click sound, right? Okay, so the next thing that you might think that we would do here is change this to fixed, because when it comes to a kick drum, you're thinking about a fixed frequency. And when you click on fixed, what that does is it makes the kick a certain pitch. But what I think is really useful about using a synthesizer for a kick drum is that with many electronic genres in particular, playing the kick to the pitch of your song can sometimes be harmonically advantageous. So what's nice about this is that I can play my kick in different pitches, right? With that in mind, let's go ahead and instead, we're going to take our transposition, we're going to move this down 24, okay? So what that's going to do is we're going to shift it down 2 octaves. So whenever I play a C, I know that I'm getting a C, okay, kick drum, or E. I know that I'm getting an E kick drum, okay? And another thing we can do in the pitch page is we can turn on this pitch envelope. And so you get an extra envelope inside of operator that deals with the pitch. So what it sounds like right now is do. Right? So to me, that's not fast enough. Ooh. I want something a bit quicker. Because when, in real life, when you hit a kick drum with a beater, the pressure of the kick drum, the pressure of the impact makes the membrane of the drum go up in pitch and then go back down to its resting pitch. So that's a little bit better. Now, another thing we can do is we can increase the peak, right? And that gets us a different sound, right? So somewhere between the decay and that pitch envelope, we can get the kind of sound that we want. Maybe I want less pitch envelope, but more decay. Or maybe I want more pitch envelope, but less decay. Right? So we're getting somewhere. Now, the next thing I want you to understand is that with modern kick drums, usually there is a second or third element on the front end of the kick to make it brighter or louder or have even more impact. So one thing we can do is we can turn on a second oscillator, and we can pull its sustain down. Now, the thing to understand about operator is that by default, all of the oscillators are stacked on top of each other. So when I increase this level, we can hear that instead of a second oscillator coming in, what we actually hear is that second oscillator just modulating the first one. So what's advantageous about this, I'll go ahead and open this up real quick. We can hear that note come out. So if I leave the sustain up, that's a note, right? If you change the course, what course does is it actually goes up through the harmonic overtone series, making potentially pleasing harmonics on top of this kick drum. Again, another advantage of synthesizing drums. So somewhere within these first 4 harmonics, we can get a really nice harmonic kick. Now, of course, I'm not going to leave it this way. I'm going to pull my sustain down. I just wanted you to hear what that effect was, but I want that to be incredibly fast. So now we're starting to get into the sound of what might be considered a beater, like a beater on a kick drum, right? So I can reduce this. That's a sound, and then I can increase this, right? Until it's something that I like. And then I can try different course amounts. To me, I really like somewhere between 4 and 0.5. Yeah, I'm digging that 3 for now. Okay, cool. So with that out of the way, the next thing we can look at is, of course, the filter. Right now, by default, when you open Operator, a lot of people don't know this either, is that the filter is set at 12K. There might be things being generated above 12K that we can't hear unless we open this. Yep, do you hear that there's more information up there? So by default, we're at 12, but there's more information. And when it comes to synthesizing a kick, you actually might want that. That might help the kick drum punch through the mix. Now, the last thing to understand is that the filter actually has per voice distortion on it. So you can turn on maybe soft clipping, and you can hear that just by turning on soft clipping, because there's already a gain stage in there, we've changed the tone. That's with it. That's without it. That's with it. So let's go ahead and turn up the shape. Bam. Now what we've done is we've used the soft clipper to sort of marry those two oscillator sounds together and make a cohesive kick drum. So let me go ahead and play for you the original thing that I made here with this Electron Tonverk. So that kick drum was sample-based that you're hearing, this one. And I don't mind it. It's not a bad kick drum, but I'd rather use something that I can control a little bit better. Normally, I'll write music on things like the Tonverk, or, I'll sing an idea into my phone or something, and I like to have the control that modern synthesis allows me to have in the DAW. So this idea being an E, I'm going to go ahead and play an E, and I'll play my kick drum part. Okay, so there's my kick drum. I'll go ahead and quantize this just to get it right on the beat, and I'll go ahead and turn off my original kick here, and we'll listen to this one. Now, my kick is significantly quieter than my other kick. What's up with that? Well, another thing to know is that by default, Operator is turned down negative 18 dB right here. So let's go ahead and turn this up to maybe negative 10. And immediately, to me, this kick drum has more weight, it has more control, it's tuned to the song. It's just, there's a lot more that I can do here. So I'm going to go ahead and start messing with this a little bit to mix it in. So as always, when mixing, you want to listen to the music at the same time, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I think I might want a little bit more drive. Nice. Awesome. So as you can hear, this kick drum is a lot more harmonious, if you will, with the song, right? Because I'm playing the note E, and I have set up a synthesizer to play the note E, right? And so What some of the things that we might be missing from this kick drum that the other kick drum had was maybe more of a pitch envelope, okay? Like right now it's kind of in and out of the mix, right? It might be bright enough to cut through the mix, but there isn't really as much of a pitch envelope. So the great thing about synthesizing a drum is that you can go in and change that. So right now, listen to the effect that happens with the mix playing of what increasing my decay time is on my pitch envelope. Boom. It's got a lot more muscle, right? Great, so it sounds aggressive, and I think it's a meaningful improvement over the last kick drum, but another thing that we can do is we can start to change the brightness or the character of the beater by turning this up and down along with the mix. Okay, so if you're learning a lot from this video and you enjoy my style of teaching, I have really high-rated courses on sound design using just Ableton Live. The lie you constantly hear is that you need a million plugins to make modern music, and that's just simply not true. The thing is, most all third-party synths and plugins were actually originally inspired by Ableton Live instruments and devices. For example, OTT was originally just a preset in Ableton's multi-band dynamics, and now you see copies of OTT everywhere with a lot less features and a lot less flexibility. Or that modern synths require updates and new downloads and sometimes buying new versions of the synth just to add features, but in Ableton you can simply just add whatever features you want using instrument racks or audio racks. What I'm saying is that truly understanding what you already own is the goal of my Ableton courses. They have yet to receive anything under a 5-star rating, and if you aren't satisfied with the course, you have a full 30 days to get a refund on them. So if you want to learn more about how to enroll, the link is up here or down in the description. I also want you to know that I decided to create what I call RPGs, or random preset generators, out of this drum synthesis method, and I'm giving all of these away to my students who are enrolled in my sound design course. So if you are already enrolled, go check the first section and grab these. They're a huge time saver. Okay, let's get back to it. Okay, so let's make a snare. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a Midi track. Let's grab an operator. And just like before, we're going to go into our globals, reduce the voices to 1. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go onto this page, and let's make the envelope that our snare drum is going to have. So I'm going to pull my sustain down, right? That's a little bit more like hitting a drum, right? Okay. The next thing we're going to do, of course, is we're going to change that phase again. We want that percussive phase, right? The next thing we're going to do is go into our pitch envelope, just like before. Now that's a sound that is similar to what it sounds like the body of a snare drum is like, but I want to make this pretty intense. I'm going to bring the pitch envelope all the way up and reduce the decay by a lot. Getting more of that sound. Now another thing you can hear is the release time. You can hear that release time, so we're going to turn that release time down too. Right? Okay. Now the next thing we're going to do is bring our frequency up here on our filter. So as you can hear, again, I'm able to play the pitch of this snare drum, and this is going to come really in handy here in a little bit. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to actually group this, because while I might be able to get a good amount of this done with Operator, I think what's really nice is to be able to have a noise layer that is addressable separately. So what you do when you group something in Ableton is you create what are called signal chains. So this is a chain now, and you could think of this as like the body of my snare drum, but I'm going to actually grab a different device. Let's go ahead and grab a drift. Now the reason I want to grab a drift here is because drift has a noise generator, okay? And we can just turn the oscillators all the way off. So now when I play a note, woo! Sorry about that, it's a little loud. Okay, cool. So now we have a noise layer on our snare drum. I think what I would like to do is high pass this a bit. Cool, so there's our noise layer. So what we can do with this is we can change, of course, the envelope of it. So the first thing I understand is that I don't want any sustain with this. When I hold my finger down, I just want it to just decay. Right? Now the next thing that I want is I want to make sure that that impact sound, the doo, that sound, I want that to be by itself. I don't necessarily want this noise layer to step on it. So I'm going to increase the attack until it's somewhere where I like it. Cool. And then of course the decay time does not need to be nearly that long. There we go. sounding a little bit more like a snare drum, right? Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is let's do some effects that are going to go on everything. So the first thing I'll do is grab a saturator. Just like on the kick drum, I know that we used operator for the whole thing, but in this case, using a saturator, this is really, really useful because it can take these two disparate elements and congeal them together. So I put it on the soft sine clip, but you can use any of the different clipping modes and just experiment with them. But I'm going to turn the output down and then the drive up by a similar amount. So let's maybe try 20 dB. So without the saturator, we get this sound. With it, we get this. It really just, anything that gets quiet between the two sounds when their transients hit, it sort of brings that up, right? And it pushes down anything that might stick out. So really, in a lot of ways, it's congealing these sounds together. Right? Okay, cool. So as you can hear, if I don't hold my finger down, that release stage tries to come in there. So we're going to turn our release down of that noise. Great. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to look at tuning the noise. You can do this a variety of different ways, but I like to use a hybrid reverb. And let's put that on our drift. And we're going to change our blend all the way over to the convolution side, or we can actually just turn this to convolution, okay? This is great to do for multiple reasons, but one of them that's great is that we can choose a convolution reverb to add reverb to just the noise layer. Listen to how wide it gets. That's sort of one of the main things that we want to accomplish with this, right? So it might be a little bit late, so we can turn our pre-delay down a bit. We don't have to have it decay as long. And another thing we can do is we can just go through different convolution reverbs. Let's try it. Ooh, big snare. That's what we're trying to make, right? All right, let's reduce our decay time. Cool, so that sounds pretty good. Now the next thing we can do is we can go over to this EQ and maybe bring out some of the low end. Sounds pretty good. Now you can dial in different levels of stereo thanks to this little stereo width control right here. So that being mono, get it nice and wide there. I think, a dry wet blend of about halfway is nice. Now the last thing we're going to do with this layer is we're going to grab an EQ. So again, I'm working in the key of E minor, and maybe I want my snare drum to have some of that fluty kind of pitch kind of sound, right? So something I can do is I can turn the gain up of one of these middle frequencies right here, and then really tighten that Q. And what this will allow me to do is to kind of tune this. And commonly when you hit a drum, there is a pitch to the lower head that's vibrating the snare, the actual little wires under it, right? So that makes this sound a little bit more convincing, right? Now that might be a bit much. You can back it off a bit. And now what we can do is we can blend between these two sounds. So right now this might be a bit heavy on the noise side. And I can mess with my decay times. Nice. So something I want to point out is that this hybrid reverb and this EQ is living on the drift signal chain, okay? When I click on operator, notice how those disappear. That's because they're living on the signal chain with the noise layer, the drift layer, okay? Really important to understand that that's what's going on. And then I put a saturator on the end to try to congeal the sounds together. Right? Now, the last thing that I like to do is put a compressor after everything, okay? Because what the compressor can do is it can shape the entire volume envelope of this whole thing. I mean, this is also a place where you could reach for a transient designer or something, but this is essentially the same thing because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut into this with the threshold, and I'm pulling that signal down very shortly after the attack, okay? And so what this does is this emphasizes the attack of that original sine wave. I'm opening the attack up a little bit to allow some of that signal back through. And as you can see, we're reducing by about 5 dB, so I'm going to bring 5 dB back in. Bam, and we have this beautiful snare drum sound, right? Cool, so I'll go ahead and record. Maybe I'll play the high E and see if I like that. Okay, cool. So go ahead and quantize this. And now, let's go ahead and take out my original snare drum and take a listen to this. So that sounds great, but I don't think it's loud enough. So I'm going to bring my output gain up of my compressor. Okay, maybe a bit over the top, a bit too loud. Now, maybe the last thing that I would do here is I would grab an EQ and I would work with the overall sound. Now that I've got the sound, pretty dialed in, we can go ahead and start working with EQ to shape this into something that we might want. Now, not only do I have these drums tuned to my song, I can reach back for any one of these control sets and change some things about them if there's something about it that I don't like. So going back all the way to my operator, I can mess around with this and see if there's something different that I might want to do. And something that's cool about operator is that you can change the time envelope of all the envelopes together at once using this time control. So what happens when I back this off a little bit? That's fun. Now, another thing, of course, I can do is I can mess with the original decay of my snare drum if I want it to be longer or shorter. Now that I have all of this dynamics processing on the way out, right, reducing the decay emphasizes the noise because the original snare element is getting out of the way quickly. Increasing the decay time will actually decrease the sound of the noise. So maybe that's what I want. And something else that's really fun is now that I've got this figured out, I can just quickly cycle through all these different convolution reverbs and, maybe try some different ones out and see if there's something that I like more or less. I like this snare ambience. Whoa, no way, snare ambience, right? Of course, opening the decay time. Maybe that's a little bit more of an aggressive kind of sound. Now, I'll go ahead and Command or Control J all of these snare drums because I want to show you something else. These are all to a pitch. So if I select all of these, they could be a different pitch. Maybe a fifth would sound cool. So right now they're up high. Right? It's a different option. Or maybe... Now it's a fifth up above E. Maybe that's more appropriate, whatever you're going for, right? The flexibility of creating drums with synthesizers, it's just wild, and it's awesome. And another thing to understand is that, you might be watching this and being like, well, I don't make music like that, or I don't make this style of music, or maybe I like the sound of my samplers. Well, what's so great about this is that I don't have to leave these other sounds out. I can blend them in. Having this snare layer along with my original snare layer might be a nice thing to do. So I'll leave my original snare layer in. Right? And let's bring in the synthesized snare. Right? And I don't know about you, but that's kind of my favorite thing that's happened thus far. we are taking advantage of that tuned, high-pitched snare drum that we've created and laid that over the samples that we've used. Now, you got to be a little bit more careful with kick drums. I'll go ahead and bring my kick up here. But with kick drums, the thing to understand is that it could be that because of the pitch of the kick, they may be phase inverted from each other. So something that you might want to do when you do this kind of work is, yeah, bring it in and just see if it starts to sound more hollow with your new kick. Let's go ahead and take a listen. Yeah, we might be getting a little bit of hollowing. So something that you might want to do is reach for a utility and place that on one of your kicks, and you might want to invert it and then just A/B it and see if it sounds better or worse. Do you hear that? Essentially what that is what has happened here is that potentially this sample got fired a little bit late or early or something like that. And what's happening is that it's throwing the phase off. And I'll go ahead and bounce this in place so you can see what I'm talking about. But if we zoom in right here, we can see, these kick drums are almost perfectly out of phase with each other. And because of that, we're only hearing the brighter stuff that doesn't get out of phase. And so that's why turning this utility on actually helps our situation out here, right? So without it, but with it, right, we throw it back in phase, okay? So you got to be careful about that when combining kick drums, sampled kick drums with synthesized kick drums. It could be that the phase gets thrown out, okay? But you have so much control over that here with utility. You can just turn the L and the R on, and what that does is that inverts the phase of the left and the right channel. And if you have both of them on, you're essentially just flipping the waveform upside down. Cool, so I hope you got some useful information out of this video. I normally just ask people, hey, if you like this, like, comment, subscribe, or whatever. But what would really help me is if you took this video and you shared it with somebody that you think might benefit from this stuff. Like, one of the main reasons that I like to make videos like this is because it's amazing to think that somehow globally these videos are making it out there and helping people create the music that they want to create the sounds that they want to create. So yeah, if you think that this is a useful video and you think that a buddy of yours may benefit from it, share it. I'd love it. And as always, if you want to support this channel, please check out my Ableton online courses. I have yet to receive anything less than a 5-star review on them, and you can check that down in the description. Much love, everybody. I'll see you next time.